Congratulations for the win in Ol Kalou. But the question is, do you feel that something has substantively changed with that win in Ol Kalou?
Well, a very good morning to you, and I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you very loud and clear. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Well, yeah, I mean, a lot have changed because, as you already know, the government had come in with a lot of bravado and, of course, with a lot of bribes disguised as development. And after the people of Kalou spoke with a very, resounding voice in regards to what it is that they feel about this government, the perception of what you need to do, as far as the government is concerned, have completely changed. You cannot, purport to perform when there is, a by-election, when the same people have been waiting for development, have been waiting for services from the government for years and decades, and you have never bothered. I mean, they're asking very simple questions. Why now? Why now? Why would you want to bring, all those kind of goodies when there is a by-election? It is pure, because you would want to disguise. It is like, the good saying that says that in hell, when they are campaigning, you won't find the devil with the tail, you won't find the devil with the horns, and you won't find anybody being put into guillotine on anything. But once the campaign is over, everybody goes back into the burning fire. So a lot have changed in the country, and especially in the region. The region have been able to communicate its frustrations with this government, which is obvious, and a lot have not been happening. But what I would say was achieved more is that the people's power and voice was protected despite a lot of intentions to sway it with money and everything else that they brought.
All right. The much talked about issue is the fact that a year to the election, DCP in the next 1 week or so will be a parliamentary party. How does this change the outlook for other members of parliament, this elected members of parliament who still support UDA in the Mount Kenya region?
Well, can I say this, friend? I mean, they already know that the lighting is on the wall. What happened in Ol Kalou is that the region communicated, loudly with a very high voice on what they want and where they are headed. It is now clear that if you are a member of parliament sitting in an UDA table and you come from this region, you can count your days, as far as representation is concerned. There will be nobody who will be spared, I can tell you this, Friday, who comes from this region and continues to support a government that the region feels is not giving them what it is that they bargained for. I keep on reminding these members of parliament, and they've not been listening to the people, that you are as good as the people who elected you. This representation, you cannot go beyond the will of the people who gave you the responsibility. It is facade to think that now that you're in government, you can continue, to dine with the oppressor and at the same time represent the people who have been, oppressed. It is ridiculous. So the people who comes from Mount Kenya, and they are on the government side, I can guarantee you their days are numbered, and they will all go home come next year, August 10th. They will be fired by the employer.
I'm in studio with Fuamba, NC Fuamba, and he insists that this was not a loss for UDA, it was a loss for Jubilee because the party was represented in that constituency by the late David Keraho. Do you agree with him that this was not a loss for UDA?
It is ridiculous. How would you say it was not a loss for UDA when you participated in the same election and got very little voice? When you came in with billions of shillings to campaign, the UDA lost because, let me say something. I know that particular constituency was represented by a Jubilee, member of parliament, the late Keraho. But you see, the context, the Jubilee was nowhere in that context. They barely got 140 votes. So you could already tell it was not about Jubilee. Jubilee was completely forgotten. You couldn't even tell who voted for them because nobody ever talked about Jubilee in the entire campaign period, including their own candidate. This was a context between what I would call UDA and the people of Mount Kenya, because the majority of members of parliament from this region comes from UDA. They are already UDA members of parliament, which means UDA had taken this particular region as their own, and they couldn't, afford to get that particular, seat, which they had lost in 2022. But this time around, the context was clear. UDA was included in the context. They lost big time. And if you want to assume so, as FOBA would want us to, to convince us, in 2022, how many votes did the UDA candidate get? Nearly 20,000, which means there were more than 15,000 people in 2022 who were convinced that the UDA candidate was right, despite being beaten by the candidate from Jubilee at that particular time. This time round, they had to buy everybody with so much money. And I can tell you, if that money was not circulating and was not available on the polling stations, and on the polling day, they would not even have gotten 1,000 votes. They would have been in the league of Jubilee of 120 votes and 140 votes. It would have been catastrophic. Only that the government had put so much money into this, of course, to try and, create a perception that they still have some sort of control and, support within the Mount Kenya region, which is not there at all. It is not there.
All right. One final question just before we take a break here. There are many people who must have promised the president that they were going to deliver Ol Kalou, one of them being his deputy, I presume, that was leading the campaigns there. Do you think that, what do you think about their future, even within UDA, now that they failed to deliver Ol Kalou?
I can tell you it's many, many